do you think that being too positive all the time is actually bad for you?
Absolutely. And in fact, it's equal, if not even, well, it's equally as harmful as being too negative all the time. And the reason is, how many stories have you and I both seen where the guy put his life savings in AMC or Reddit or fucking Dogecoin and lost his life savings?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so
totally.
Way too fucking optimistic about that. Right? So when I was talking about mentally drunk, this is mentally coked up. Right? And so ultimately, the truth is balanced. So there's two principles. There's a principle of polarity that states that essentially everything has poles. Okay? Everything is two sides of the same coin. There's equal positive in every negative. There's equal good in every bad, rich in every poor, and so on and so forth. It's just a perspective. Okay? So as our boy Einstein said, it's all relative, which is true. So there's no absolute polar truth of one thing is good or one thing is bad or one thing is positive or one thing is negative. Second law is the law of conservation of energy. It means it states that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only be transformed or transferred from one form to another. So that means that you can't destroy negative to get positive. There's actually equal positive in every negative and equal negative in every positive. It literally, you can't destroy energy. It can only be transformed or transferred. So that being the case, there's literally equal sides to absolutely everything. There's equal hot in every cold. The example that I use is, would you say 130 degrees, if we walked outside right now, it's 130, would you say it's hot out?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? But if you and I stepped foot on Venus, it's 864 degrees Fahrenheit. Relatively, it's 8.5 times hotter. Now, how do we classify? Do we just classify both of them in the exact same hot bucket?
No, because if you were on Venus and it was only 130 degrees,
you'd need a fucking coat.
Well, or you could at least survive,
right?
You would not survive if on a normal day.
Right. And so my point is then you say, so now from that perspective, you're saying that Venus is hot and Earth is now relatively cold?
Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense. So now, Venus is hot, Earth is cold, but the sun is 9,941 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, what do I got to do with Venus? I got to move it here. And then now the sun is hot. Venus is mild. Earth is freezing at 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, all of a sudden, there's no such thing as hot and cold. It's just a thing called temperature. Just like everything in life. There's no such thing as a good event or a bad event. It's just an event. It just depends on how you want to look at it. And ultimately, once you, these laws, flame me in the comments if you want, because it's pretty much impossible to refute these. There's no such thing.
People will try.
Go for it. It'll get engagement on the video and we'll get more views. So ultimately, there's no such thing as good or bad. There's no such thing, no matter how catastrophic, these universal principles are true. Even
there's no such thing as good or bad.
Correct. It's all just like there's no such thing as hot or cold. It's all depending on how you want to look at it. There's equal good in every bad. For example, if you want to take the Holocaust, you'd say that was bad, right?
Yeah, generally, yes.
Right. But how about all of the millions of people that have had inspiring stories, have learned lessons that have then caused their second and third generations to now live differently and never have something potentially like that ever happen again for the rest of humanity?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that is like a salvage job of a that's finding good in an incredibly bad situation.
Right, but is it untrue?
Well, no, it's not untrue.
Exactly. So my point is, yeah, we've salvaged it. And what everybody watching this is trying to salvage their lives. And the truth is, there's equal good in every bad. There's equal positive in every negative. There's equal hot in every cold. And to the degree that you resist that concept is the degree that you're trapped with lies. Because remember, we talked about the truth is what sets you free. The lies are what piss you off and cause you to go, wait a minute, that's what causes fucked up shit. So to the degree that you acknowledge universal truths is the degree that you're free to operate, free to choose a perspective. That's how you can have empathy in sales and understand the other person's perspective and see their point of view without lashing out and needing to punch them in the fucking mouth about it. Right? So to the degree that you can agree to disagree, or I can just, I see your side without needing to fucking cause a complete scene.
Well, and I think it's important that, discussions be had and logic and facts and all these things that are pretty finite be able to be discussed without emotions wrecking the very foundation of reality.
Right.
Because, we can have conversations. We can, like, one thing I'll since you mentioned the Holocaust, which is always like the worst thing to mention. But I remember one time I was reading a book that was talking about, it was called the 16-word sales letter. It was talking about basically copywriting. And there was a section in the book, I didn't write the book, but there was a section in the book that taught a very specific type of speech sort of tactic. And it said that throughout history, a lot of different leaders and dictators and all kinds of different people would use this tactic. And one example that it gave was Hitler in the Holocaust, and it showed how he used that speech tactic.
Yeah.
And then it said, like, basically what it said was if a guy who was like 4'7" can get up there and use this speech tactic and inspire an entire country of otherwise rational people to do this incredibly terrible thing. Imagine how powerful it could be if you used it for something good or this or that. And I just thought it was interesting. So I take a picture of it, that sentence, and I posted on my Instagram, and I was just like, kind of an abrasive point, but what do you guys think? And I mean, the vast majority of people agreed, but there were so many people who got so upset at the very mention of Hitler or the very mention of the Holocaust that they didn't even actually read it. They didn't even actually try to comprehend it. They just immediately got triggered, and would not even take their brain and put it in gear to actually even have a discussion. They just went, I'm offended, And to me, I remember when that happened, I thought of you, and I was like, these people literally just opened up Instagram, took a look at that post, immediately took a shot, took another one, and then started babbling.
Yeah, they chugged a bottle of Popov right there.
Right, just at the sheer mention of it. And the thing is this is the thing. This is why I don't agree with this whole being offended and by just the mention of certain subjects is because they're touchy. Is because, I get it, they're touchy. But imagine for a moment that you wanted to prevent a terrible atrocity from happening again. You wanted to be able to spot, recognize, and understand a person or an event that could happen, that has already happened in history. What would you have to do in order to effectively understand that? You would have to study it, right? You'd have to study it. You'd have to actually look at what's happened in the past, as terrible as it may be, and you'd have to study it
objectively.
But if immediately you just think that thing's bad, and I hate it so much, so I'm just not going to even look at it. Well, now guess what you've done? Now that thing can happen again because you weren't paying attention, and it does happen. History repeats itself. And I understand that it's terribly uncomfortable to look at things in history and things that have happened that are uncomfortable, that are terrible. It doesn't make us feel good. But if you really hate that thing that much, to me, the most logical way to look at it is, well, I might hate it, but I need to get past my emotions and at least understand, put my brain in gear to understand it so that I can recognize it, so that maybe I can do my small part to prevent it from happening again, or at least I can see it happening and get the hell out of there. And people don't think like that. They just see it, they get emotional. And that type of thinking, again, what works for you is what works for you, but I haven't seen it work for very many people when it comes to achieving things in their life.
But you and I both know that the only way to get somebody to see the light, i.e. close somebody on a deal or get somebody convinced of a new idea, is to make it their own idea. And the way you do that isn't by enforcing it, it's by inviting it. And hey, if they see it, they see it. If it's not, if they don't, they don't. And we can't care whether they do or not, which is why I'm just like, I'm not trying to convince anybody of a goddamn thing. I'm just here to share what's worked for me. And if you like it, great. If you want to shit on it, great. I honestly don't really care.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, that's what I've done my whole career. I've said, look, here's what helped me.
Yeah.
Here it is. If you want to do it, I view it this way. You're either going to love it, you're going to put it into practice, and it's probably going to work for you. Or you're going to hate it, you're going to talk trash, and you're just going to bring it more attention to what I'm sharing so that people who don't disagree with it can see it more.
Right.
So either way,
right.
thank you.
Yeah,
thank you for your cooperation.
Right.
Watch the full episode by checking the link in description.